And while I've been working on everything else, I'm working on these windshield wipers as well. And I got the wiring figured out for them. So the new switch came in, and so I'm just testing it on the table here, and this is what it sounds like. I'm gonna turn it on here. So that's totally normal, right? It's been sitting for 5 years out in the not being used, so I guess it's got a little dry. So I just have to lube these shafts here up. But it's all working. The pulse works, the park works, the high and low. So we're out of stock on these switches right at the moment. So once I get another one, I'll be able to mount the both of them. I don't have anything in the dash there right now. I pulled them both out, but was able to find the wiring diagram online. So that's good. Anyways, so I will lube that up, and then I can mount this back into the front of the bus. I'll wire the other one up and see if it needs the same thing or what. But anyway, I can now get the windshield wipers working properly, which is another step toward getting it inspected and then licensed and insured as an RV, because it has to have windshield wipers, it has to have heater, or at least a defroster, which it has now. It needs to have all these different things, so lights and brakes and all that stuff. So just one more step. Okay, so a little bit more on the windshield wiper setup. I am attempting to operate both wiper motors with one switch. I have no idea whether that's going to work, but I figured it's worth a try. And those switches, I think I mentioned before, 185 bucks a piece. They have plenty of, I checked the current draw. These motors pull 2 amps each at high speed, and the switch is rated for 15 amps, so there should be plenty of, it's not going to burn it out by overloading it or anything like that. So I'm going to attempt anyways to see if I can get both wipers to run off of one switch. So I'm making up a harness here, so that will plug into the switch, and then each of these will go to one to each motor. Of course, there's got to be more wires than that, but that's the simple explanation of it. Anyways, that'll just split it, and if it doesn't work, then I'll pull this back out, and this is the one, and it'll connect into there, and I'll buy another switch. But I'm hoping that I can get away with just having one switch, and we'll see. I've got the one that was making all the racket. I got it all, tore it all apart, lubed it up, put it back together. It works good now, nice and quiet. So I'm just going to go pull the driver's side one out, and I'll set it up on the bench here again and test it. And then I'm gonna, this is the wiring harness for the other one. Of them's fairly long, one's fairly short. For the one longer one will go to the passenger side, shorter one to the driver's side. Anyways, that's beside the point. I will see. So they have this plug here on the end of that goes to the actually goes to the motor. So it's pretty much, other than I had to make this unit here up. it's pretty much, just plug in. So it should be a fairly simple test, and it'll either work or it won't. So I'll try it, and then I'll video a little bit more of it either way, whether it works or not. Anyways, here we go. All right, well, that didn't work. I just made a $500 oopsie. So, of course, when I think about it afterwards, it couldn't have worked. But I never really thought it through enough. There's probably those of you that were watching this going, well, that's never going to work. And you're right, it didn't. So, the reason it didn't is because these things aren't necessarily going to be synchronized, and I could probably have made it work if I put diodes in the power and ground wires, now that I think about it, but yeah, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth the hassle. So long story short, I got to buy another kit. These motors, well, the motors are fine. They work fine, but the park function and all that, it's on a rotor in here, and when it gets to a certain position, it breaks contact. And anyways, because both of them aren't synchronized or doing the same thing at the same time, then if one of them is, has gone to its park position, the other one isn't there yet, it just shorted. So and it burnt the little contacts out inside in here. There's a wheel in there with these 3 contacts, and I never traced it through to figure out exactly what to do, but one of them is basically what happens is you turn it on to pulse, and it turns the low speed on, and it starts to move, and then it shuts it off right away, and by the time it gets back around to its park position, that's one sweep, and then it pulses again, and that sends it around one more time. And then because they're not, they don't move at exactly the same speed, the timing wasn't exactly the same, and it shorted. So anyways, and it burnt them out. burnt them out. So oopsie. It's an expensive lesson, but anyways. What do you do? You never know unless you try, right? And it's only money. So anyway, I'll have to order another set, and all I need is I can order these. They still have these. I got them on eBay about 5 years ago, and and then I modified them. I've got a video from like 5 years ago when I worked on these things and got them, got the sweep right and all that kind of stuff. These are actually for a D4500, MCI D4500, and this of course is a MC7. So the windshields are different sizes, and well, it's actually got MC8 windshields in it. But anyway, that's another story. So anyways, I had to modify the pivot point here for to get the sweep right. So anyways, there's a video like 5 years ago or something where I did all that. But once I had done that and it was working, I hadn't spent the time figuring out how to wire them properly to work, so I just left it at that, and then we moved up here. And anyways, long story short, I'm just getting back to it now. Now I've screwed them up, but they they're still for sale on eBay, so I'll just have to order another set, and all I have to do is I'll just have to replace the motors, and maybe I'll even get maybe I'll get a switch that works, so that'll make it hurt a little bit less because I've only got one switch and it's $185. And anyways, doesn't matter, it is what it is. So when those get here, I'll swap them over, and I know how to, individually. I had them both working. They're individually, and it was working fine. And then and this one doesn't make all the racket that the other one did, so it's all fine. And then I got the bright idea to hook them together and see if I could control them with one switch. Apparently you can't. So anyway, that's the name of that tune. Like I say, I probably could put diodes in them so that the power couldn't backfeed between them, but you know, I don't. It's not worth the hassle. It's still an experiment, and it's not worth the $500 to figure out that. Nope, that didn't work either. So I'll just put them in with 2 switches and be done with it. It's it wasn't really that big of a deal. It's just kind of thought it might be a better way to do it, but apparently it's not. So anyways, more on this later. So I have another set of these wipers ordered. Those wiper motors are pooched, as you saw in the last video. Again, don't try running both motors off of one switch. It won't work. So $560 mistake, but at least I still have all my fingers. Anyways, so they're a couple of weeks away before they get here, but so this is just going to be kind of on hold for till I get them. But as soon as I have the parts, I will I'll video that, and I'll video the wiring. It's pretty simple wiring now that I figured it out, but it looked pretty complicated when I first got it. So if anybody, this would be kind of a handy conversion for anybody to do, really, getting rid of the air wipers. So I will video the wiring of it as well, because I've spent the time and I figured out how to wire it, and I had it all working, and then got the bright idea of trying to run both motors off one switch, and that didn't work. So so I will do the video the wiring so that it'll make it easier for if anybody else wants to do this. So anyway, that's my story for now, and I will continue on with this when the motors get here. Right now I just have them disassembled off these plates. I'll use these plates and just replace the motors with the new ones when they get here. So more later. Alright, I'm going to try and explain the wiring process for these wipers. I've got this all kind of torn apart and just sitting on my table here, and I've pulled the harness apart, like all the loom off of it, to try and make it make more sense, and I hope that works, because what you get when you order these doesn't actually look like this. I mean, these wires are all in the harness, but the harness is a lot more, there's a lot more to it. But anyways, this is the important stuff that you need to be able to figure out to wire these things. And I've spent a fair amount of time. The reason this is all torn apart is because I pulled all the loom off of it so I could see where all the wires went. Then I did some investigation online, figured out how these switches work, all that kind of stuff. So if anybody decides to that they want to do an electric wiper conversion, then this should save some time. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of time trying to figure it all out like I did. So this harness comes and it plugs, it just plugs into the motor there, and this is all in a wire loom. This white wire is a ground, so the motor needs separate power and ground to it from the switch, which initially I didn't know, so that's why I was having some trouble getting it to work. But I found some information online, and so this white wire is the ground for the motor, and in this harness there is, and it's nice of them to use virtually all the same color wires, but this one wire here is also power that goes to the motor, and that is all in a wire loom. So when you get it, basically there's two black wires and a white wire that'll be sticking out of the end of the loom that they just cut off when they take it out of the bus. So this is the white wire. This is one of the black wires, and this wire here is the other black wire, and this goes to the washer pump, the windshield washer pump. And so, hope this all makes sense. So that wire goes to the plug that goes into the switch. The other black wire comes from the motor, so that goes to power here. And this is the power and ground to the switch. So the red and black wires here, and whether they're red and black at the switch, they're not necessarily red and black here. Mine that came were blue and white. So anyways, you just maybe have to just trace them back. But the red and black wires coming out of and they're on a separate plug. That's the power and ground. This is the plug that goes to the motor, and that has this loose wire on it coming out of that switch, and that goes, like I say, to your windshield washer pump. And this white wire goes to ground, and the black wire on here go to ground. And of course, again, this is 24 volt. It won't work with 12 volt. The switch, the white and the yellow wires are the high and low speed, and I don't remember which is which. The brown wire, that's just the windshield washer, and the blue wire is the park. So what my part of the problem that was neither of my switches worked, so that complicated it. So what I would do if you decide to do this is test the switches before you go and run them, and install it. So basically all you need to do is hook power and ground to here, and you can then, and these have a what do you call it, a pulse or a intermittent wiper as well. So turn it on to low and check if you have power with a test light to the white and the yellow, and then if you push on the button, that sends power to the windshield washer motor. So you should be able to again test that with a test light, and put your test light on the ground, and this will give you power and turn the light on. Same as if you probe these wires, the white and the yellow wire, you'll if you have it on your alligator clip on the ground side, then the light will light up when there's power to either the white or the yellow. Hope this is all making sense. And if that all works, then the switch works, and then you're good. You don't have to take any of the wiring harness apart or anything like that. There'll just be two wires sticking off of a plug like this that go to power and ground. This ground can be connected to that ground, and the power from the motor can go, just get tied in to this power. And it needs to be switched power, obviously. And that's basically, that's it. But it looks pretty intimidating when you first get it, or at least it did to me anyways. There's, they got a bazillion plugs on here. I'm not really sure what they all do, but don't really have to. Like, I've stripped all that off of that to make this simpler to try and explain. But you'll get them, and they got a bazillion plugs on them, but it all comes together. You don't have to do, you don't have to take anything apart or anything. All you need to do is hook those two to power and ground, these two to power and ground, and as long as the switch works, it'll work. And there's two different length harnesses. The longer one, they're two different lengths, and the longer one will go to the passenger side typically, and the shorter one to the driver's side. At least that's the way it worked in mine anyways, and I think, the switches are typically mounted closer to the driver, so I would imagine that's going to be the way it is for virtually everything. And that's about it. So like I say, I don't know whether this made any sense or not, but if somebody decides that they want to do this, these things, like my bus is a 71 MCI or an MC7, and they just bolted right in, even though they're for a D4500, like from the mid 90s or something. The mounting, they just bolted right in. I didn't have to make any changes to the mounting. Now, I did have to adjust the length of the oh boy, I'm having a brain fart here. The length of the arms the arms had to be shortened. They were too short, or they were too long, so I had to shorten them. Those were because the D4500s have bigger windshields, and I also had to adjust the stroke. And I did a video originally back in, I think, 2018 when I first got these things, detailing that. So if you go back, a ways on the in the videos, you'll find that one. Maybe I'll even just make a playlist with the two videos. Might be easier. Anyway, but I would imagine you'd be able to adapt the mounting brackets and that to virtually any bus. This is just the motor. This isn't the mounting bracket. I've got it off of it. Yeah, so I would imagine you'd be able to adapt this to virtually any bus. If you can build a bus, you can figure this out. But if this doesn't make sense, or if it's confusing and somebody's actually interested in doing this, then leave a comment and I'll get back to you with where I got it. And if something's confusing, I'll try and do better at explaining it. You can figure it out yourself, but it took me quite a while, and I wound up munging up two switches to, well, I shouldn't say that. Neither one of my switches worked, but so I didn't actually mung the switches up. They didn't work already, but so that complicated it. But if you'll, earlier in the video here, you'll see where I had screwed up two perfectly good motors. So I had to order another kit. And so when those came, the switches in there, these are a couple of the switches that came in it, and they both work. Maybe when I got it originally, it was just a bum set. Maybe most of them will work. I don't really know. But anyway, I hope this all makes sense and helps somebody out that's trying to do this. And let me know if you need more information. I'm happy to try and you know, I spent a fair amount of time mucking around trying to figure it all out. So if I don't mind helping if somebody really wants to do this on their own bus. So anyways, with that, I'll call it.